Hello and welcome to JavaScript Marathon, a full day of free online courses in some of the leading web development technologies and concepts. My name is Sarah Renaud with this Labs, and I will be your marathon host. Our next presenter is Nacho Vasquez, Senior Software Engineer at this Labs. Welcome to JavaScript Marathon, Nacho.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really excited to be here and share all this interesting stuff with everyone, which I love.
We are excited to have you. Nacho will be presenting plugin architecture for Angular libraries using Dependency Injection. He can be found on Twitter at Nacho_Vasquez14. We've dropped that in the comments if you want to get a hold of him later. Special thanks to our sponsor, this Labs. This Labs offers personalized training programs to suit your organizational needs, ensuring you and your company stay on the leading edge. If you find keeping up with constantly evolving technologies a struggle and want to bring your team up to speed on one of the latest technologies, contact us today at hi@thisstack.co to set up your complementary needs assessment. We have a ton of upcoming events. Tomorrow's State of You with FU and other maintainers. That starts at 9 p.m. Pacific time and 12 p.m. Eastern time. We also have State of Accessibility next week, getting started with GraphQL, which is an intro course with Moon Highway on June 1st, and State of Angular Ecosystem on June 3rd. You can get more information at this.co. And a huge special event coming in July, we are going to have a JavaScript Marathon week. So stay tuned for those details. July 19th through July 23rd, same time, 8 a.m. We're going to start. So we're going to have one session per day. So keep on the lookout for those details soon. And with that, I'm going to hand the keys over to Nacho.
Great, thank you. All right, so we are going to deal with this long title here, but just for making everyone more comfortable, we are just going to mainly focus in plugin architecture and use with dependency injection in Angular, right? So just to make the title a little short. So before everything, again, yeah. I'm Nacho Vasquez. I'm software engineer here at this and I share my Twitter handle. If you want to reach later, you can add me there. I also put there the code of the current presentation, what we are going to do in the live coding session, so you can go there and check it later at your own pace. So yeah, we are going to start talking about plugin architecture, and I think that the first thing to mention is that this talk was born from an article that you can find it in the this.blog. So you can go there and check more in detail. So we are going to briefly cover plugin architecture in this presentation, but we are going to mainly focus in the code layer to see how we can actually do this. Okay, so what is plugin architecture? Well, plugin architecture is an architectural pattern that is meant to be used, or is great to be used with this kind of problems that you have many different ways to solve it, right? But you don't want to kind of be implementing this all the time when you have a new way to solve it and you want a bit more extensibility, you want to have more decouple architecture there, and that's where plugin architecture comes in. And plugin architecture is is built from two essential parts, right? You have the core system, which will be like the center of your system where the orchestration will happen, and you will also have your plugins. Your plugins are going to be the pieces of code that solve this problem in these different and unique ways, and the core system will handle of that. So the core system, as mentioned, is in charge of solving this essential functionality of the system, like the things that you cannot decouple anymore, that need to be focused in this center of your app or library or whatever you are building on. and it provides the contract for the plugins for implemented, because you need a way of communicating the plugins and the core system. So you need to provide this contract, and this is basically the only thing that the core system will know about the plugins, no more than that. It will orchestrate the plugins, but without handling them directly, just iterating over them or handling them over the contract. So it is unaware of the plugin implementation on even, any implementation detail about the plugin is something that the core system is not aware of. The plugins are the tiny parts, right? They solve these specific problems, and they do that by implementing the system contract, or the contract that the system core provided. Um, and this will be the only thing that they will know about the core system. They are unaware of the core system behavior, when this core system is going to call the plugins or themselves on, and they are also unaware of other plugins existence. So this can be banned sometimes, but I truly recommend about not doing that, because that will create tight coupling between different plugins, which should not be aware of their existence. If the system core doesn't know about them, what they should know about each other, right? So an interesting thing that you can see is that sometimes you're building the system core with a plugin architecture, and you want to have a given plugin to be added to the collection of available plugins, but maybe this plugin was implemented, or this functionality was already implemented in another system. And you can adapt using an adapter pattern. You can adapt that plugin to your system and use it. So what I mean with this is that not necessarily a plugin have to be written the first time around a specific core, but it can be adapted to it. So the main concept, or the main architectural principle that we want to have, or that we use when we are creating a plugin architecture, is the inversion of control. And the inversion of control, what it states in our case, is that it will take away from the core system, which will be like the main thread, or the script of the main script of our application library of system, or whatever we are building there, is going to take away the control of how these plugins, or this of the functionality that the plugins implement, is executed, and how they're instantiated, and that will be moved away from them. The instantiation will be part of the DI system, and the behavior will be part of the plugins. So it also will imply that we will have some kind of dependency inversion, in the sense that now the plugins are going to only access the core system to implement this contract, and the core system will use the contract to communicate through the plugin. So they will not depend on the low level implementation of the plugin, but in a high level contract interface in this case. And this can be done in different ways. Is not dependency injection is not the only way of doing that, but dependency injection is really a great way for doing this. In our case, since Angular have a great dependency injection built in. All right, so that was a really short walkthrough to what we are trying, the problem that we are trying to implement, to solve, right? And when we want to think about plugin architecture, and you can find a bit more in that article. But I think that we are going to appreciate the value more seeing the code. So, and that article, the implementation, the code provided was really abstract and generic. So I would think that it will be great to implement something more concrete. And we are going to be implementing Lumberjack. And for you that don't know Lumberjack is a plugin-based logging library for Angular built by the ng worker team, which I'm part of. So the essence, the great power of Lumberjack is actually around this plugin architecture concept and how our plugins, which is in our case our drivers, can execute different ways of logging whatever message we want. So we are going to implement kind of Lumberjack. We are going to take a lot of fanciness from that and just concentrate in a core part. But yeah, I think that will be fun, and we'll try to do it in less of an hour. So that will be great. So besides that, what we're going to need for this implementation is going to need the plugin contract, the plugin injection token, which was going to be like what the plugins and the core system need to agree on. And then we're going to implement our orchestration service, plugin configuration tokens, and core configuration. Yeah, just listing some of the stuff that we're going to need so everyone have in mind, but you will understand what is what once we start implementing those. All right, so let's go to the code now, and let me see in the comments if you need me to sum in or you have any question, but probably we will go over all the questions at the end of the live coding session, right? So what we have here is in the left side, we have VS Code windows with a shallow workspace, Angular workspace, right? So this is a to-do that we will go in a minute over that, but let's go just for a second over our project structure. So we will have Lumberjack, which is an Angular library, which will be our core system. We have Lumberjack demo, which will be an application that is running right at the right of the screen. And it will be just where we are going to test that everything is working. And then we will have a couple of plugins here, and we'll probably just implement one, but I want to add two so everyone can see that, yeah, we are having multiple plugins working at the same time, right? So now let's go over our to-do list, and this is what we need to make everything working. And the first thing is going to be your plugin contract, right? Because this is the most important stuff. This is what everyone needs to know, the plugins and the Lumberjack. And as I mentioned before, the plugin contract needs to be in the core system. So the core system will be the provider of this contract, since everyone's it is the one thing that won't change. The plugins can go and you can use some or not, but the system core must always be present. So this is the one which is going to be providing our contract, and we are going just to create a plugin because this is going to be just an interface, right? So we are going to create our plugin interface, but I think plugin is a reserved word for TypeScript or some other libraries baking. So let's call it this Lumberjack plugin just to avoid any confusion. And for this one, I just going to copy paste something that I already have here so we don't lose time with the details because it's really repetitive code. And I will just show you what this is about. So this is the domain of our problem is login. So if we want to be logging, we need to have this different method, or the way we are going to solve it is using this different method, which are log and use the different levels to which one we want to log, right? And then we just pass the message that we want to log. Just simple enough is what I want to go with this exercise. So now we have our contract, and the first step is completed. Now we need a plugin injection token, and this is because the plugins is the plugin contract is an interface, and as you know, the interface are not really something. It's not nothing. It's our TypeScript artifacts, so we cannot use this as our injection token when working with Angular. So we are going to create our plugin.token.ts, and we are going to just create a new plugin token, right? And this is going to be an injection token from Angular. So Nothing fancy there. So new injection token, this import doesn't go there, goes here. And we are going to, this is going to be an injection token of a Lumberjack plugin, right? For that, and yeah, this is just going to have some text here, plugin. Yeah, probably that's enough. Right, so we are not going to do nothing with this right now, but just making sure that you know that we need that for later. All right, so now we can start playing a bit with the orchestration service, writing at least the first part of orchestration service. And this is going to be like the core part of our system. This is going to be what is going to manage when to call our libraries and or plugins, sorry, and when. So basically, what we are going to need here is to inject, since we are using injection, all of our tokens, and we are going to use optional because we might not import. This is not mandatory to have plugins injected, right? You can just not have any plugin at some point until the people start to configure them. And then we are going to have our plugin token, and yeah, just going to have here all list of plugins. Lumberjack plugin, I call it, right? Lumberjack plugin. All right, so now we have our plugins here, but there is something that can happen here, and this is the way the Angular dependency injection works. And the thing is that this is not always be a list of plugins, because it could be null. As we see, we are using optional here, but also if only one plugin is provided, this won't be a list, but it's going to be just a single plugin. So let's do some validation for that. Let's actually create here private read-only plugins, and this is going to be a Lumberjack plugin. Okay, let me check this out, right? And now I'm going to create a variable for that here. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all plugins, and this is the one coming from the constructor. And I want to check that if these plugins is null, I'm going to provide an empty list. Otherwise, I'm going to keep this plugin over here, right? And then we are going to like take our plugins. This is now our instance plugins, and we are going to do this in if array, sorry, this array or plugins, because remember that it could be just a single plugin. If an array, I'm going to take that plugin. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. It's just some verification here to make sure that we are playing nice with Angular dependency injection, but it's nothing really about plugin architecture, right? And that done, we only need now our method. So we are going to have our log method. That's going to be the way that the world is going to interact with our plugin architecture, library system, and with Lumberjack in this case. So we are going to receive a message, and this is the message that is going to be logged. And we are also going to receive a label. And we don't have this label defined yet. So let's do that. Let's go here and create a new file, log label .ts, and this is going to be a type, log label, and this is going to be equal to error or info. Let me just copy this to save some time and don't forget any of those. So let me just copy here. Nice. So yeah, basically we are just listing all the different log labels that we can have. And now we can just import this over here, and that's fine. Okay, right. Now we need to start logging, and we need to start logging using our plugins, right? So what we are going to do is grab our list of plugins, and we are going to do just average. Okay, we can do different stuff here. Let's just use for each for now. I'm not a big fan of for each, but it works. So now we are going to basically just do a switch case, which again, we can do something more interesting here, and you can check the Lumberjack report for the way we are doing here. Lars implemented something really nice for using strategy pattern to replace this switch stuff. But basically what we need for the example is verify what is the label that we are using here. I'm going to again avoid losing time with all this copy paste, so I'm just going to copy paste all this and right, and this we are not going to use this yet. So basically what we are doing here is we are going to iterate of over all those over all of plugins, and depending on the level of we want to log the message, we are going to use the right level here. And since we are using an interface, we know that all our levels are going to implement these, so we are the core system can just make sure that it calls the right method of the plugins, right? So that's basically it. And we already have kind of a plugin architecture built here. So this is it. This is very close to what we need. But okay, we're going to add some more stuff, and we still need to build the first plugin. So we have our orchestration service. Now we are going to need some plugin configuration because we want to first we want to make sure that we know when to use a plugin. For example, could configure your plugin to which level the plugin can write to, or you want the plugin to write to. So for that, we're going to create here a plugin.config.ts, and this is going to be just another interface, which is going to be plugin config, right? And it's just going to be a list of levels. Log level. And what we are going to do with this is to make sure that once the plugin implements something, the plugin configures the levels, it can only log to those levels. So we're going to, in our core system, since this config still belongs to our core system because it's something that will affect the way the core system works and is part of the interface. So actually, sorry, I'm going to first go here and say that we have our config is part of our contract. So we are forcing, sorry, plugin config, right? We are forcing our plugins to know that they have this config here. And we can now use that with a can log method maybe. And we have a label, which is going to be a log label. And we also have a plugin, going to be a Lumberjack plugin, right? And now we're simply going to do something like this dot plugin. Sorry, it's not plugins. No, plugin. That's right. It's not this. Sorry. It's just coming from the parameters. .config.labels, and just going to check that these labels include the label I'm trying to log. Okay. So autocomplete is playing me today. Okay, right. So now we have this function, and we can simply go here, and before doing this, we can say something if this dot can log, and we are going to pass the label that we already have and the plugin we are dealing with. And just in case this is possible, we are going to call everything here. So that way we are kind of protecting that we want just to log to a certain degree or certain level. Okay, right. So that done, we already have our plugin configuration, but we need our plugin configuration token now. The same, it's an interface. We need a way of providing this. So plugin.config, the token.ts, and this is again going to be just a cons. plugin config token, going to be a new injection token of plugin config for this, and this is going to be plugin, just to make sure this is unique, plugin config, right? Okay, so now we need, we already have our injection token and we can start injecting them when we start dealing with the configuration. This is done. And now we are going to go over our core configuration because we also want to make some configuration for the core level and make something more generic there. And so let's go there and discuss. But what we are going to do with this core configuration is we are going to define a function that is going to give us the format that we want this message to be output, because maybe we don't want just to put a message, we want all message to go over some processing. So we're going to have this format function which is going to receive the message, which is going to be a string, and it's going to return another string. And again, just before going to do the to do again, we know that this is going to need a token. So we already know the thrill, right? So again, just another const here, which is going to get config token, and this is going to be a new injection token of core config, core configurations, yeah, should be core configuration, but just leave the typo for now. It's not the big deal. Again, a unique name for the token here. Core configuration. Cool. Nice. I'm going to miss this import here. Done. And now we can use that here with our core service, since this is something that is unique for the global system and the core orchestrator in this case. So we're going to inject this core config token, and this is going to be my config, right? And this is going to be actually just a private, since this is part of my configuration over here. What I am missing, core config token, for configurations. Okay, nice. And now, since I have this, I can actually modify how this is going to be, how this message is going to be formatted in a more general way for everything. So basically what I'm going to do here is this dot config dot format, and that's our message there. And that way I using this global configuration here. Cool. And now we already have almost everything done. Now, the first stuff that we need to start doing is start putting every of these pieces together. And for that, we are going to configure here, and we are going to use our Lumberjack module for that one. So what we are going to do here is use the static for root here, and this is the one that is going to allow us to pass this config, and the user, the developers using our application to actually use our module. So this config, which is going to be core configurations. Sorry about that. And the Lumberjack module over here. Nice. Import this. And now we are going to return our ng module, which is going to be again our Lumberjack module, and we are going just to provide providers, going to just provide or core config token, for config token and use value config that was passed to us. Okay, what's going here? Okay, this is an array. This is an array. Right, cool. And that's it. So now we are passing our config and we are providing that config to the entire system so we can use it. And that is the way we configure our Lumberjack system. And now we need to configure and implement our plugin. So let's go to our console plugin here, which is going to be a simple one. And maybe want to rename this. We don't want to be a service, going to want to be just a console plugin. Just change the name, cool. And now we are going to rename all this also. And what we're going to do here is to implement that plugin that or Lumberjack plugin that we already defined there, because this is the contract, right? And this is going to make us implement everything that we need from here. So that's it. So the other thing that we're going to do is to actually inject this config. So plugin config token private config, and this config that we are using is the general one, but of course we could extend this configuration and use that instead here, but for now this is going to be just enough. Sorry about that. And this is not private, this is public. So he is now is happy, we are implementing everything. So the only thing we are missing now is to actually implement how this is going to be called. So we are going to just call a console log with that message, but let's going to do this more accurate and use the right method from the console, window console to call here. So critical doesn't exist. Let's use error, warn, and trace. Great. So that done, the only thing that we are missing right now is to actually provide this plugin and make sure that the system can start interacting with it. So we are going to go here, and as before, going to take this all out. Actually, I don't want this to be injectable provided in the root. I want to provide this by hand here in the ng module because we are going to need to do some more advanced stuff. So again, going to use have our static for root, module will providers of our console plugin. We're going to pass our config again, but this time it's going to be a plugin config, right? Sorry about that. Just add this, and now we're going to return here ng module. Is going to be our console plugin module. Yeah, now we are going to do some more, and this is the more interesting part in Angular dependency injection, right? So we are going to provide a couple of stuff. We are going to provide again our plugin config token, and we are going to use value config. Actually, we might need something more here because this plugin config token is very generic and it kind of overlaps the different plugins. So actually we need a particular configuration token for each individual plugin, right? But for now, let's go over here and we can fix that if we have time before. This is going to work because it's only one, but if we have more than one plugin, this way can handle. So we actually let's do that. Let's do that so we don't confuse everyone. So this plugin config token now needs to be here in the console config because that is not something that the core will need. right? The core will not use this. It's very specific for the console. Console plugin config token, something like that. Yeah, that's great. And we can now make this unique. Cool, great. So let's close everything. So yeah, let's clean a bit up and go ahead again to our console module here. And now we are need to actually provide our plugin. So we are going to provide our plugin token. Or plugin token is going to import that. And there are going to be some special things here for, but the first one I want to show, and this is the what makes all the plugin architecture work, is this multi, which needs to be true. And this is what is going to allow when we go to our orchestration or Lumberjack service, sorry, onto Lumberjack service. This is what is going to allow that we inject a single plugin token, but we get all the available tokens. So this is the secret ingredient, right? This multi-true here. But it's not the only one, the only thing we need here. We are also going to need to use a factory to provide this, because we need to pass this dependency here. So we are going to need to define a export function here. We need to do this and not a lambda function, because otherwise Angular will complain in build time with doing outie. And we are going to get here a config, which is going to be a plugin config. And we are going to actually return the console plugin, right? Yes. Okay, and we are going just to return new console plugin with that config. And that's it. That's all that we need to do here. And we are going to use factory, and we are going to use this function console plugin factory. Use this over here. And the other thing we need is pass the dependencies, because he doesn't know where to find this config, so we need to help it, and we are just going to use this plugin config token to let it know. Okay, and that really is everything for now. So now we're going to go and start playing with this. Let's go to app module, and let's going to start stream. Well, let's keep it that. Let's just start with our Lumberjack module, and for root, let's going to import it so it can help us a bit. And it's going to receive a format function, and the format function is going to receive a message, which is going to be a string. And we are going to just return something like an emoji, because emojis always work, right? So we're going to have here an axe, because we are lumberjacks. We're going to pass the message, and we are going to pass some tree here, something nice. And we also need to now import our console module. And notice that our console plugin module doesn't have anything to do with our Lumberjack. They can be imported by separate. One cannot, the plugin cannot work without the core, but they are not aware of each other. So this is something really nice that we love about Lumberjack and this core implementation, or this plugin implementation. So I'm going to pass a couple of levels there, and the next things that we need to do is just going to check our app component. I think I bit aware of time, but just do this really quick. We're going to have a constructor here, and just going to. Oh no, we're okay with time. Oh, it was really fast. Oh, zooming a bit. Sorry. Yeah, I was not looking at that, but okay, I was looking at a different timer. I think I was too behind. Right. So I'm going to slow down a bit now and go over everything again, because we have some times, and I'm going to zoom in. So everyone can see it, right? So now what we need to do is import here Lumberjack, and this is going to be your Lumberjack service, right? And yeah, just import Lumberjack service, and we are going to just call here and log. Our message will be the forest is on fire. And with that done, we now need to pass our log level, which is going to be, this is not actually the way, we're going to pass something like error, right? Let's say that we should have an error here, but that's really a different error from the one I was expecting. So this is probably because we didn't export everything from here. So let's go to a Poogie API here and start exporting everything that we need. So we need export core config core config token. Yeah, we need also log level, but don't worry, we will go over everything again. It was a bit lower the screen size. Going to export of plugin config plugin token. What did I? Yeah, our plugin token, we need that here. Okay, not this one. Plugin config plugin token plugin config token doesn't go here. Okay, that's great. And I think that's it. So now we're going to probably need to fix some things here in the module. We are going to remove this import and remove this import. And let's import it from the right place now. Okay, I think that's the right place now to import all this. Nice. And going to do the same here, plugin token. Going to take this out and take this out and take this out and pour this from the right places. Right. And this is lovely that this error happened, so we can go and check that everything that we did is on track. Okay, and now we go to Lumberjack demo. Go here, Lumberjack module, console plugin. Okay, so Lumberjack now will be some fire, and this is going to be info. Let's go info for now, just to verify. Build this up. Fail to compile. Okay. Lumberjack service. Okay. Return. Console plugin. We have to import this one. All right. Yeah. We have some little errors, nothing serious, but now we are logging the forest is on fire. Very cool. So what we are doing here is we are providing info as one of these allow messages, but if we remove info from here, now nothing happens because it's not one of the allowed message here. So actually, I will say that the forest being on fire is not an info, it's more like something very critical. So let's do that here. So let's do this critical stuff here, and now we will have a critical log message log in the console. So that's it. Let's go and do very quick an overview of everything that we did over here. So we have our Lumberjack, which is the core system, and Lumberjack will provide the plugin contract, the plugin token, because the plugin, this is needed by both the plugin and the core system. We are going to have a plugin config, which also the plugin, the core system needs, but it can be extended if you want to configure your plugin with more stuff. And you can check all this in Lumberjack. We do a very extensive configuration strategy. But yeah, but the most basic one is also needed for the system core, so we place this over here. And then we have the system, the Lumberjack system core, which is the orchestration service, and this one we are going to verify if a plugin can log a level. We are going to iterate over all of our plugins, and this one we are iterating and just calling the plugin to do an action, but we could also do some reduce or some other more complex integration of the different plugins that we are using. For this case, we just need to call them and they will do whatever they need to do. The HTTP plugin can send a plugin over the network. The console plugin will write in the console, as we've seen, and there are the possibilities are endless, really. So the other interesting part here is that we are using optional because we not always will have plugins, and we are just importing those plugins, and this is very generic, so the system core doesn't know which particular plugin he's dealing with or what that plugin does. He only cares about the contract that they are signing. And the other interesting part that make this work is this multi here. So when we are using or for root for configuring our console plugin, this multi property in the provider is going to allow to have, with using the same token, multiple instance of the same token with different implementation, and that's really key for what we are doing here. So I will go now to the comments and say hi to everyone first that is here. And now I'm going to check what we have here. So, oh yeah, soon a bit. I was a bit late on that. I hope that you can see now. I shared the code anyways, but yeah, sorry about the zooming. Coalescence from NG12, right? With coalescence, you mean like to console plugin, like this operator here? No, it's in the orchestrator, Lumberjack service. Well, this is part of this app is in actually, yeah, it's in Lumberjack in Angular 12, but I think that this is came with TypeScript with the Angular 11 was already there. But if not, we could do something like that. If that's the coalescent operator, I think that's what you're meaning, right? I don't remember exactly if that's the name, but you could play with the old or operator there. Okay, no, that's in templates. Well, okay, cool. I kind of lost now, but reach me later and we can talk all you want to talk about this. All right, so more questions. Awesome. Yeah, great. Hi, Lars. Thank you for that. Yeah, cool. I think that if you have any question, please drop, but I think we are done. This is how dependency injection works for plugin architecture, and you can actually extend this to whatever it is. We are use Lumberjack because I really into the matter, and sometimes it's hard to take your mind out of that topic, but you can actually use this for many other things.
Wonderful, Nacho. Thank you so much for such a wonderful training for everyone. Again, you can find Nacho on Twitter if you have any follow-up questions. He'd be happy to field those. His Twitter handle is in the comments, so go ahead and follow him on Twitter. Again, thank you so much for coming. Nacho, thank you so much for your time. We will be back with Dane Grant in a bit, so stay tuned and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.